Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name's David. I'm Head of Support at GovernorHub, and today's training session is aimed specifically at clerks and administrators of school accounts. So this is not a session for regular governors, regular trustees who are just using the site. We're going to run those separately throughout the year. In fact, we've done one of those already this term. This is a training session with admin rights. So all those admin jobs on the site that need to be looked after, we're going to talk you through those today. So we'll be covering lots of topics that if you don't have admin rights, you won't be able to do those functions. That won't necessarily be relevant for you. I hope that's okay. Hope you've dialed into the right session. Just got a couple of questions coming through on the chat here as well. I've got my colleague Jane with me on the chat, so she'll be trying to answer questions as we go along. So do please pop them in there. Everyone is on mute. We have hundreds and hundreds of people on the call. It's not practical to unmute everyone, I'm afraid, but you can always drop a question in the Q&A or the chat. And if you have anything specific to your account, I would ask that you don't bring it up in this webinar. It's not the right forum for that, but you can always contact us at support@governorhub.com. If you have a specific query about your account, that's the way to get in touch with our team. Okay, we are going to record this session. It's recording now, and we're going to send out a recording of the session afterwards. So don't panic if your internet connection drops out or you've got to dash off to a meeting. We will ping you out the link to this training afterwards. It's going to be quite a lengthy session today. We're going to go have a really comprehensive look through the site and what you can do if you are an administrator or clerk. We're going to cover things like setting up membership, managing terms of office, how you deal with documents, things like setting up calendar events and recording attendance, how you communicate out with your governors. We'll be looking at reporting and downloading information back off the system. And finally, we might just touch on how the difference is if you're working in a MAT, if you're looking across multiple schools in a multi-academy trust, you'll have a slightly different setup to administering a single school account. We are going to do more of that on multi-academy trusts in our next session. If you decide today's training isn't right for you, we do have some others coming up. We've got a general governors and trustees session on Thursday, the 2nd of November. At 10:30 a.m. And if you want a bit more detail about administering GovernorHub in a multi-academy trust setup using the GovernorHub admin site, or if you're clerking for governor services and local authorities, then that's on Thursday, the 9th of November, also at 10:30 a.m. You can find all our training dates and booking links on help.governorhub.com. So please do go and have a look at that. It's the first entry on the help page is our links to our upcoming sessions. Okay, I'm going to get started. Let's click through and have a look at the site. So welcome. I'm guessing lots of you are familiar with GovernorHub already, but what we're going to talk through today is we're going to go really deep into the site and have a look at all those admin functions that you can do and all the sorts of things that you need to do to keep your governance running smoothly using the site. So, as you know, when you first sign into GovernorHub, you're taken to the Governor News page. And we'll just have a quick look here. You can see lots of information in the news feed that we pull in from a variety of education sources such as BBC, Schools Week, DFE, and so on. If you have upcoming events, they will also be listed here in the upcoming events box. And of course, any accounts that you're a member of on GovernorHub can be displayed here on your washing line, which runs across the top of the page. It's really important to say that you need to be a member of a group for it to show up on your washing line. So if you're working across a multi-academy trust, and we'll touch on this again later, if you are expecting to see all your schools and they're not showing for you, you will need to be added to those schools as a member for them to show up as an icon on your washing line. Okay, let's click through to GovernorHub proper. We'll start off by looking at a school account. And we're going to start off by talking about how you administer membership in GovernorHub. So as I'm sure you already know, administration of membership takes place on the Governing Board tab, which you can see here. And when you click through, we're looking at the current membership, current members of this particular account. So if you've got your members set up already, they will be listed here, and there'll be a lot of information about their terms of office, their roles, their committees, who's got admin rights, and so on. To get someone set up on GovernorHub, if they're not listed, it's as simple as clicking the blue Add Member button. You can then pop their email address in the box and invite them to join GovernorHub. Any email address is fine. Doesn't have to be a school or trust email. You can use a personal email. That's down to the preference of your board. If they do have a GovernorHub account already, and this is quite common where they've registered already as part of another school or perhaps another trust in the past, if that email address is still active on GovernorHub, the system will notify you and you'll be asked to confirm that that's the right person. So just watch out for that. It may happen from time to time where you come across someone who's already registered with that email address. Once you've sent them a registration email, they will have a few steps to go through to sign up to GovernorHub, including setting a password, reviewing their privacy settings and things like that. And then they'll be on the board and able to access the account. You can see here, we've got quite a few people listed on Wise Owl School already. And Jane Doe is one of those people that we've added to the account, but Jane hasn't gone through that sign-up process yet. So you can see here on her member entry, has not yet registered on GovernorHub. And we're flagging this up in red because what this means is Jane's details have been added to the system, but Jane hasn't gone through that sign-up process. She's not clicked on that welcome email and clicked through the various steps to set a password and so on. So at the moment, Jane's actually not able to access GovernorHub. Even though she's listed here, she's not actually signed in or able to view anything. So she'll need to complete that first. Sometimes these emails go astray, as we know, so you may need to send a little reminder out. Now, if you click on Jane's name or indeed the little arrow next to someone's entry, you'll have a few options regarding their membership underneath. And you'll see this one here. Excuse me, this is a nice helpful one for you. If you need to give Jane a little nudge to register, you can resend a registration email. So that will ping out a little reminder saying, please come and register and go through that sign up process. Just by way of contrast, if you click on a member that has already registered, like Ellie here, you'll see the option is actually slightly different. For Jane, who was unregistered, it's going to send a registration email. But for Ellie, who is registered, we're actually going to send her a password reset because she's already gone through that process of signing up and setting the password. So if you need to set a password, a reminder out to someone and they can change their password, that's how you do that. Okay, fab. So we've got some other options here as well regarding membership. Probably one of the most important as administrators and clerks, and you will probably know this already, is the ability to give or take away admin rights. If you are an admin, you can make or break another admin, if you like, by clicking on this button. So if I wanted to make Jane Doe an administrator of the account, I can give or take away the admin rights with the click of a button there, and we'll see it flagged up as the green admin tab. Now, as you know, being an administrator on GovernorHub gives you lots of extra options in terms of functionality. Most governors can by default log into the site, view things, comment on posts, read documents, upload documents, and so on and so forth. But they can't really make any substantive changes, such as adding or removing members, setting up calendar events, changing documents around and deleting things. You have to have admin rights to be able to do that. So use your admin rights sparingly. We would recommend, a couple of people on each account is fine in terms of administration. Certainly everyone does not need to have admin rights because that way lies chaos. But, your clerk, your head teacher, your chair of governors, all absolutely fine to have admin rights. It's a sensible way forward in case someone is off for a while and can't administer the account. At least you've got someone there as a backup. Okay. Giving or taking away admin rights, sending out registration emails and adding their details to the board. Once someone's listed on the account, you can add or remove appointment details. So it's perfectly possible to be listed on the account with no further details than that. All you really need to use GovernorHub is an email address, and then you're set up and able to log in. But it's more likely you'll be wanting to add some appointment details to your members throughout the board. So to do that, click on the Add an Appointment button. And from the drop-down list here, we have a whole host of appointment types, governance appointments that may be relevant to you. Okay, so it's worth checking down the list, seeing what is the best fit for your instrument of government. And we'll click on one. And then we will fill in the relevant details, such as first appointed, term of office start, and so on. Does fill in the 4-year term of office as standard, but obviously you can edit that if needed. You might be working in a Church of England school or a religious setting, so you might have a nominating authority to pop in the box there. And you can also record any other information that you need about that member's appointment. Once you've done that, you can click Add, and that appointment will appear beneath the member's entry on the members list. Okay, so you can see here, Jane Doe, even though she's not registered, we've already set up that appointment, and that sort of information is recorded on the system. If you are setting up accounts from scratch, we do have the option to switch off the welcome emails. So if you get in touch with us on our support desk at support@governorhub.com, we can switch off welcome emails if you prefer to get your membership set up, members listed, appointments set up, that sort of thing first, and then you can send out the registration emails at a time of your choosing. But by default, adding someone to the account with the Add Member button invites them immediately. Okay, so just something to bear in mind. If you want to have a bit more control over that, we do have that option, but you need to get in touch with us to make sure that's set up for your account. It is possible to add multiple appointments to someone, on the board, so you can set up a variety of appointments here. Let's go with that, and we'll pop that in as well. So you can see side by side we have multiple appointments showing. Okay, from the menu, and you'll see this little menu icon listed all over GovernorHub, this little pillar of 3 dots here. So do look out for it. From that option, you do have a couple of options there for editing that information. So making changes, making a reappointment if you come to the end of a term, or to remove that appointment entirely. And we'll just talk through that in a bit more detail. If you do need to remove an appointment from someone, it's possible to do that, but still leave them registered on the account. So I'll show you what I mean with Jane, even though she's not set up fully. What we can do here is we can actually take away her appointment details. So remove the faith governor element, and we'll remove the member element. But Jane's details are still listed on the account. So she is still a member and able to access this once she does the sign up. However, if you click the red remove button, that's going to take Jane's access off the account immediately. And you'll see there the warning popping up. It will immediately revoke Jane's access to the governing board. Okay, so just wanted to be clear about that. It is possible to remove appointment details without removing someone actually from the entire account in the first place. Now, just a word on that as well, because there may be times where it's appropriate to remove someone from the account, and you may want a record of that person's time on the governing body. So adjacent to the current members tab, we have the historical members tab, and this displays previous members of the account as a timeline. So you can see who's been on the board in the past and a rough record of their appointment details and terms of office and that sort of thing. This is all fully GDPR compliant, by the way. We're not storing personal details. We're not storing anything like that. But we are saying this person was a member of this account from this date to this date, and they were a parent governor, or so on and so forth. Now, how do you create a historic member record? Well, you can actually create this manually by clicking on the blue Add Record button. So you can fill in their details as we go. including their roles and committees, a reason for perhaps why they're no longer on the board, along with dates and that sort of thing, and you can add their appointment details manually. However, there is an easier way of doing this, in that you need to have their appointment details on the system first. So if we head back to Jane Doe's entry on the members list here, and we'll just pop something in quickly, and we'll populate that with Jane Doe. She's on the board, she's got an appointment in place. Now, if we click remove, we have a slightly different option to what popped up before. If you remember, it said it was going to revoke her access immediately. This will do the same thing, but it's also asking us to record some of the details. Because there is an appointment in place, i.e. this learner governor that we've just popped on here, if we click the remove button, it's going to ask us if we want to store that information, essentially. And by doing that, it will transfer her record over to the Historic Members tab. And so all of that information will be recorded there once you click revoke her access. Just a quick word of warning. If you do, by any chance, remove the appointment first and then click remove, notice the pop-up is different. It's not actually going to record that information. Okay, since Jane Doe has no current appointments, they will not be displayed in historical members. So because we've taken the appointment off of Jane Doe first, now if we click the red remove button, she will just go from the account. There won't be any record of her time on the board, and you would need to then create that record manually in the way we just had a look at. Okay, so just to be clear, if you're thinking about removing an appointment from someone, that is possible from the appointment itself, not with the red remove button. If you're going to remove someone from the account completely, removing their appointment first will take them off and not store any records, but clicking remove with their appointment in place will store some of that detail in the historic members list. Okay, so just something to think about as you manage your membership over time. Fabulous. So we can have a look down the list and we can see quite a lot of information about our members on the account, apart from their appointments and admin rights and that sort of thing. Blue tabs indicate which committees they are part of, and the orange tabs indicate they've been allocated a special role on the governing body, and you might even have a custom role that you've needed to create to display for someone, and they display as the grey tabs as well. So let's have a deeper look at that. If we move across from the members tab to the roles tab, you'll see here we do have some roles on the board already. We do provide the most standard ones for you. Chair, vice chair and clerk are as standard on every account. So if you need to point out who your chair is, it's as easy as selecting that member from the list and then making that appointment to the role. And so if we head back to the roles, the members tab, you'll see now Ellie is appointed to that particular role. Okay. It's important to have the distinction between roles and appointments. Roles are, very specific in-school roles that you can customize, and you may have a particular setup that you need to indicate, whereas appointment tabs, parent governor, co-opted governor, all your sort of standard types should be set up as an appointment. If you need to remove someone from a role when they're listed, you can use the little X button which appears next to their name, and that will take that role away from them. Okay, let's go ahead with that. And if you need to remove a role entirely, then remove your members, and then let's say we don't need the co-head teacher role anymore. You can click remove, which is over on the right-hand side, and you can remove that entirely. If you do need to create something new, then you can do so from the add new role button. So it might be that you have a governor in charge of curriculum or something like that, and you'd like to indicate that. So you can pop that in as a role and then assign the person from there. Okay, it's as easy as that. So that way you can add a little bit more detail to that members tab, and that will display for you here. The same thing is true for committees. If your school or trust works within committee models, you can set up the committee groups within the account you're looking at. And you can do that from the next tab along, which is the committees tab. So you can see here we have a few set up already. If I click through to the curriculum committee, we've actually got a few members in place already. So I'll just talk you through this because this has relevance as well for the document area, which we're going to look at later on in this session. Any committee groups that you set up here will directly link through to the document area. So it's possible to customize your document area to set up certain folders for certain committees, and we'll talk you through that later on. But this is the first step. So if you need to make a new committee, let's have a finance committee if we've got one already. And we can pop that on the account as well. Oh, good, we've got a duplicate. We can add our members in this way. And it's as simple as just clicking down the list, popping those members in to that particular committee group. Now, if you're working within a committee group, it's really important to assign someone as admin of that committee group. So this is slightly different from being a board admin. So you'll remember that the green admin option here on the members tab gives you board admin rights. So essentially you can make these changes and move people around and do all these extra options. However, it might be that you have given responsibility for a particular committee to a particular governor and they need to administer that folder rather than you. So it's a really good idea just to pop an admin onto that particular committee. And you can see here, I'm actually listed as the admin here. And the option, again, is from the right little three-dot menu here. We can give or take away admin rights on that committee. So this doesn't give Jane Doe admin rights over the whole account. It just gives her specific rights for this particular committee, which means that she can make changes to the curriculum committee folder in the document area. Okay. And if you are a clerk working across different committees, please make sure that you give yourself admin rights on those committees. Otherwise, you may find yourself unable to administer the actual folders for those committees in the first place. Okay. So just a heads up on that. Once you've got your membership set up, you can indicate things like admin. Perhaps you've got a chair of a particular committee that you want to indicate and that sort of thing. Did that go through? Yes, there we go. Internet catching up. So that's how you set up your committee area. And we'll come back to it later when we look at the document area, and we'll start to see how these documents are related to those committee groups that we've set up on the committees tab. But for now, let's push ahead. We've talked about membership, adding terms of office and managing those. I did just want to mention also that terms of office will be flagged up for you on the members tab. When they're about to expire, there'll be a kind of orange or amber warning saying, this is imminent. And indeed, if someone's term of office has expired, we do flag that up on the system for you as well. So you can then easily make the reappointment if needed, or take that appointment away if someone has changed from one appointment type to another. So membership, terms of office, setting up your roles, setting up your committees. If you do want to have an overview of your governing board, it's a really good idea to set up your Constitution tab, which essentially is the instrument of government for your school made into a web page. So you can see everyone in post at a glance. It's really customizable. So we know all these instruments are look very different with different numbers of different governors. So you can edit this to be as unique as your school is. You might have 6-year terms, or it might have just 2 posts, or whatever it happens to be. And once you're happy with those categories and set them up from there, if you click Done Editing, you will see who's in post. Okay, you'll see if there are too many people allocated to a particular type of governance. You'll be able to see term dates at a glance, first appointed dates. You'll be able to see imminent expiries or expiries as well. And you can also make the same changes from here as you could on the appointment itself on the members tab. So if I do need to change Romilda's appointment here, I've got those options that we looked at on the members tab. They appear here as well. So again, I can make a reappointment or take that term of office away or what have you from here. Okay. Hopefully that's self-explanatory. You'll be able to see any vacancies arising there as well, if any posts aren't filled. And at the bottom of the list there are other members. So that's important to point out, because anyone that's on the GovernorHub account but they don't have a specific allocation within the governing board, they will be listed as an other member. So as a clerk or an admin, you may well be listed at the bottom of that screen. Excellent. All right. Let's move across this section. Last thing I want to talk about here is the health check. Your school account may or may not have this. Some schools ask us to switch this off, and that's fine. We can turn this particular tab off for you if you don't want to view it, but some schools do find this useful and have it switched on. If you've got it switched on, you'll be able to see the Governing Board Health Check is a set of questions based on the latest Ofsted framework. Really what this is it's a discussion prompt for your board. So the idea is that you can sit down in a governing meeting and have a look at the questions, discuss the answers, and see if you can agree where you're at as a school. So let's take the first one as an example. Our school teaches a full curriculum and range of subjects for as long as possible. Okay, so that might be a discussion point for your governing board, and then you might be able to say, well, we're confident our school does that, or not quite sure that our school does that, and maybe we need to look at that this year. And that way you can indicate via, strongly agree or disagree, that sort of thing. You can see all these different questions, and if you fill in those answers as a governing board, it's important to realise not everyone needs to fill this in, by the way. It's a discussion for everyone, but one person can fill this in. If you've got admin rights, that person can indicate the answers for everyone here, and when it's filled in, you get a snapshot of what the priorities should be for your governing board. So you can see, quite a lot of the statements here are agreed with. Probably got a couple of things just to work on that you might want to build into your meeting schedule for this year to discuss. Okay, if that's useful to you, please use it. If it's not useful to you, please let us know and we will switch it off for you. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a moment. We will come on to talk about declarations and confirmations, but not yet. We're going to come back to that. That's the first section of today's training dealt with. Hopefully that's showing you how to set up your membership and administer terms of office and roles and committees and that sort of thing. Okay, I'm just going to pause there, keep my eye on the chat and the Q&A. I think Jane's going to deal with some of those. I'm going to move on now and talk about the document area. So let's head over to the Documents tab and we'll be able to see the document area. Now, as I've mentioned, governors can in fact upload to the document area by default. They can just upload, but unless they have admin rights, they won't be able to change documents around, rename things, delete things accidentally, and that sort of thing. It's a drag and drop document area. So if you've got your documents open on your computer, you should be able to just drag them in and they will upload. If you need to upload something specific, you can use the add button here to make a new folder, upload a file, upload an entire folder from your computer in one go, or you can even add a web link. If you've got materials that are stored elsewhere, could be OneDrive or Google Drive or something like that, you can actually add the web link without the actual document being present on GovernorHub. So that is an option. And you'll see here, in fact, pinned to the top of our document area, we do have links to the school Twitter feed, website, the school Instagram group, and that sort of thing. Okay. The document area is fully searchable. So assuming you categorize and label your folders correctly, you should be able to go through and say, right, have we got any folders that are labelled as September? Yes, we do. And we can click through to those from there. Please note the search function doesn't go into documents at all. It's just titles for folders. So Don't expect to find details of minutes popping up and that sort of thing. All right. The governing board document area here can take all major file types. It can take Word documents, PDF documents, Excel spreadsheets, all that sort of thing. And when you click on a document in GovernorHub, as you know, it will display in a preview window, okay? Which means essentially GovernorHub goes into the background and Microsoft Word pops up in a browser form and shows you that particular document. We do sometimes get asked about editing live documents, so I'll just touch on that very quickly. We do have the ability to switch on live editing for your documents, for allowing multiple people to work on a document and track changes and leave comments and that sort of thing. However, it's a Microsoft feature. As you can see, this is a Microsoft preview. So what you need in place for activating that feature is an Office 365 subscription, and you need that to be available for your governors via their emails to sign in. If you've got that in place, let us know. We can switch on the enhanced editing features for you, and then you should have the edit button here in the preview window, and you can use the standard Microsoft editing features. That might be helpful to you. We generally don't turn them on as standard because not every governing board has that set up. So please let us know if that would be useful to you. You can email us at support@governorhub.com if you need to. Okay. Looking at your document area, you may have some things in there already. And we're just going to talk about what you can do with those documents once they're in the system. First thing I want to draw your attention to is locking. As we've talked about, governors can upload things, but it's quite important sometimes to lock documents down so they can't really be edited without consent, without permission. So the way to do this is to lock down the document here so it can't be renamed or deleted and that sort of thing. And this comes from the right-hand menu again. Again, this little pillar of 3 dots. So you can unlock a document there, the little padlock will disappear, and you can lock it back up again. Oops, clicking on the wrong button. You can lock it up again. Okay, and that will prevent any unwanted changes. Now, that's slightly different from restricting a document, because even though that's locked, your members can still click through and view that document. They just can't change it. So we'll talk for a moment about restricting documents. And we touched on this when we looked at the committees group. So you can see here, in fact, by default, most folders that you upload and files that you upload are going to be visible to everyone. It should be a nice, transparent process governance with lots of access for everyone. However, there will be occasions when you need to restrict folders based on the content and the groups that you're working with. So you can see here, if we look at our curriculum committee and finance committee folders, they're actually restricted, and they're flagged up here in red as a restricted visibility folder. That's because in this column here, visible to, we've changed that option from full governing board, which is the default for everyone. We've changed that to one of the particular committee groups that we've set up already on the curriculum, on the committee tab. So when I was showing you earlier how to set up those committee groups, this is how it feeds through into the document area. And if you need to, you can restrict a particular folder to a particular group of people on GovernorHub. And in fact, this folder will only show up for those members. I think we had 5 or so members in that committee. For everyone else on the governing board, they won't even be able to see it. It's not an option. They won't be able to see it. They won't be able to click through and access those documents. Okay, don't forget, if you're working as an admin in a committee, make yourself admin of that committee so that you can access those documents and make changes. So not only can you restrict folders, but you can also lock them. So that, in this case, the finance committee folder is restricted, and in fact, it's locked as well. Okay, good stuff. Now, from there, once we click into a folder, you can obviously categorize your folders how you'd like. Most governing boards have, folders for each academic year and folders per meeting and that sort of thing. Inside a folder, once you're working with the documents themselves, you might have something specific you wish to draw people's attention to, so you can pin or unpin particular documents to the top of that folder, and they won't get displaced as you add more items to the folder. So if we wanted item 2 to be the most important here, we can pin that to the top of the folder, and that's going to stay put at the top for everyone to look at, and then the others are going to be listed underneath. Okay. We're talking also, it's likely you're going to have 1 million policies to keep track of in an average year. So if we are working with our policies in GovernorHub, you may well have a policy folder. If you put your policies into a policy folder, it's possible in GovernorHub to set review dates for these policies on the actual document within GovernorHub. So you can see here, underneath our policies, we've got certain review dates listed, review due on 24th of January, 21st of September, and so on. And we have a red, amber, green system here. So if the review for that particular policy is way off in the future, it's going to show up as green. If it's imminent, within a term or so, it's going to show up as amber. And if it's gone past the review date, it will show up as red. Excuse me. To change or add a review date, you can do that from here. Again, the right-hand menu. Going to actually clear that one. So you can see here the code of conduct now doesn't have a review date. Let's set a new one. Go back to the menu, set a review date. And then we're going to make this, let's go with this summer term next year. This is due for review. That's a nice way off. We'll pop that on there, and that's showing up as a review date there. So not only can you see this in the members tab, sorry, not in the members tab, in the document area, this also pulls through to the downloads tab. And when we look at the downloads tab later, you'll be able to see the report, which shows you all of your review dates in order. So you can easily keep track of those things. Okay. Let's talk briefly about signing things off. Obviously, we all went through a bit of a shock during the pandemic when suddenly it wasn't possible to meet in person anymore, and we needed to find new ways of signing documents off and getting things approved. So this is still possible in GovernorHub, I'm pleased to say. And if you need to sign a document, you can do so from the right-hand menu again. I'll just take these signatures off here to show you how to do it. So we've got our code of conduct, we've got the review date on there, and we want to sign this off. I've approved this already, so I'm going to click Mark as signed, and that appears now as my signature on the file itself. It doesn't, please note, it doesn't appear actually in the document. So if you printed the document off, it's not going to have, you know, a sort of digital signature. But what it does do is indicate that on GovernorHub that I've seen that and I've signed that. Okay. And if you hover over that, you'll be able to see the exact date on which that has been signed off. And as multiple people do this, you'll be able to see that by hovering over the dates here. So you can see 2 people have signed off the copy of that earlier this year. And again, these feed through into the downloads tab, so it is possible to get a report detailing exactly who's signed what and on which date. But I'll go through that a bit later on in more detail. So let's talk about sharing these things out. If you do need someone to sign something off, how are you going to do this? You're going to first of all find the document, and then from the right-hand menu again, top option here is share on the notice board. So this is a nice easy way of pinging that out so someone can sign that off. We'll come back to that option. We're just going to put a pin in that, and we'll come back to sharing and using the notice board for that sort of thing later on. But I just wanted to mention that there as a part of the signing things off. If you need to share documents out for people to sign off, that's the best way to do it, and then they can click through and mark as signed. Right, let me just consult my notes. We've talked about uploading documents, restricting documents, locking documents. There will be times perhaps when you want members to not download things from GovernorHub. It is possible to download by default here. So again, from the right-hand menu, clicking in gives us the option to download a particular document. Now, you may be concerned that governors are going to be taking these copies away on unsecured devices, that sort of thing. In that case, you may wish to disable the download function from a particular document. So you can see here at the bottom of the menu, we have a disable download option. So not only is this particular document locked for editing, so it can't be changed, it's now disabled for downloading as well, which means your governors can't take a copy away on their computer. And I believe it also disables the print button, so that the print button is not available for this particular document either. Okay, so that may be a useful thing, disabling downloading for sensitive items. Right, there's quite a lot to cover here. Let me just have a look, make sure I haven't missed anything. Oh yes, we're talking about, I've had a few queries recently on moving documents around. So let's say, and it does happen sometimes, you know, you upload things to the wrong folder or something needs to be copied over to another place or what have you. So let's talk about that. Again, from the right-hand menu, we've got a couple of options here. What we can do is make a copy of that particular document, and you can see there it instantly generates another copy. Now, if you need to move that to another folder, let's say it could be a committee folder or what have you, just to make sure they've got it, what we can then do is go back to that menu and move to, and then what we're looking at here is a kind of sub menu within the document area. So you can see I can click right through the document area back to anywhere I need to go. I'm going to pop this in the Governor Evidence folder. So I'm going to move that there. And that copy that I just made is now going to ping its way over to another folder on GovernorHub. So it should be nice and easy to just transfer a couple of copies if you need to. We are working on doing this in bulk, by the way. We know sometimes you want to move a whole bunch of stuff in one go. That's not quite possible yet, but we're working on that. Although I suppose what you could always do is download, in the meantime, you could download the entire folder and re-upload it. So that is an option. Something I've talked to people in the past about is if you need to copy an entire folder, rather than doing it piecemeal, you know, document by document, if you download that particular folder and then that's on your computer, then you can re-upload that to a new location. Okay, so that might be useful to you if you're working with documents in bulk. Right. I will just mention, because we had a question in the other day on personal documents. So, but by this, what I mean is if you have documents with personal details on, let's say you've recruited a governor and you need to store some of their personal information on the system, but you're worried about someone else potentially getting access to that, obviously you can store that elsewhere. But if you did need to do this on GovernorHub, one way of doing this might be to create a particular committee, clerk only, or admin only. Let's make it admin only. Okay, now this only works essentially if you are the sole admin on the group. If you have other admins on the group, they will be able to add and remove themselves from committees. So in that sense, you know, admins can access anything on the board by adding themselves to groups. But let's say you're the only admin, you're the sole clerk on a single school account, and there are some documents which the other governors should not have access to. What you can do is create a committee, add yourself to that particular committee as admin. Don't forget the admin rights. And then if you head to your document area, you could restrict a particular folder to admin only, which is only you. So you are literally the only person on the board who can see or access that folder. Then you could drag those documents into that restricted folder, and you're the only person who's going to be able to see that. Now, it might be appropriate to have, you know, yourself, the head and the chair as members of that committee. And in that way, you can keep sensitive documents in there that shouldn't be shared with the rest of the governing board, but yourself and the head and the chair will be able to access that. I hope that helps. You know, it is a sensitive issue sometimes, isn't it, dealing with documents like that? But if you are careful about who you have admin rights with and can restrict a folder to just those admins, trusted admins, then that's a way of potentially doing that within GovernorHub. Hope that's helpful. Okay, I'm going to pause there again and just have a look at the chat. Okay, yeah, there's quite a lot of things there that I've dealt with already, hopefully. Okay, fab. So we're going to move on. Talked about the governing board area, administering membership. Talked about that document area and working with the documents inside GovernorHub itself. And we were talking briefly about sharing those things out. So let's talk about communicating. Once we head back into our governing board document area, if we did want to share something out, the easiest way to do this is, as I've said, click on that right-hand menu again and click Share on the notice board. Now, this is going to take us to the notice board area. And the notice board area in GovernorHub is exactly that. It's a social media style bulletin board or notice board whereby you can post messages and people can respond and reply to them. First thing to know about the notice board area is that it is a public forum. Okay, every member of this account can see and access the posts that are on here. So if you are sending messages that are sensitive or confidential, this is probably not the place to do it because everyone can see it. So anything sensitive or confidential should still be emailed privately, I think. However, for the majority of your governance communication, this is the way to get hold of your governors and tell them that there's an event or there's a document that needs looking at or you need them to act on something. So what we've done there, just to recap, is click on Share on Notice Board. That takes us straight through to the notice board area with a link to the document that we want to share out. Now, we do give you a little suggestion, have a look at this as a message, but you're welcome to edit that and type a slightly more comprehensive message if you need to. Okay, so we've got a message, we've got the link to the document. Now, if we click send here, we're going to do a couple of things. First of all, it's going to make a new notice board post. So the message will move down the screen and become part of this long feed of previous messages that you can scroll down and have a look at. The second thing that's going to happen is we're going to send a notification email out, and we're going to send this out to the members that you select in this grey box. So by default, we're going to send an email to all members. We think everyone should know about this. So if I click send now, we're going to ping that out, and every single person that's linked to this account is going to get a notification email saying, hi everyone, can you read this? Here's the document link. Now, a couple of things. We can do this by default to everyone. You can then select a particular committee if you need to. Instead, it pulls through the committee groups again from that committees tab that we looked at. Or you might just want to tell one or two people about this. So it's easy enough to just pick someone off the list if that's what you need to do. But I think we'll go with all members of the governing board in this instance. So we'll click that, click send. And now we've got a new notice board post down on the notice board proper. You can see who sent it. You can see a rough guide to when it was sent, but if you do need a bit more information, you'll see Ellie's message was sent 21 days ago. If you want to hover over that, it does show you the exact date and time, so you always have a reference point. You can see it's gone out to everyone as a notification email, and we've got the message and we've got the link to the document. So if we click on the document, it's going to take us through to that document area again, and we can have a look at that. Now, when we sent out that email to everyone, we sent the link to the document, but we didn't actually send the document. So there's no unsecured documents, pinging their way across the world on the web, waiting to be intercepted. The document itself is still safe and secure in GovernorHub's database. All we've done is we've sent the link out. Now, if your governors click on the link on their email, they'll still be asked to sign in the usual way, and they can click through and access the document. So it's nice and safe and secure. We also have a document restriction in place. So if we wanted to share something out from a restricted folder, we can still do that. We can still share this on the notice board, okay? But this particular link, because it's come from a restricted folder in the document area, even though it's going to appear on the notice board, even though it's going to be emailed out as a link to whoever you want it to be emailed to, it's going to have that data restriction still in place. So if I wasn't a member of that particular committee, I will not be able to access that link. It's going to be a dead end for me. Okay, I can't click through and actually have a look at it. It's only going to work for the people on that particular committee. All right. So rest assured that data restriction is still in place, even if you're sharing things from restricted folders. Okay, once you've done that, your members can then click through and mark it as signed, as we've said, or they can leave a reaction to say that they've read it. We know the smiley face and the tick are the most popular, judging from the notice boards that I interact with. And your members can in fact leave comments, and they can say done, and they can let you know that that's been done. So you're creating a dialogue trail, you're creating a nice evidence trail to say, right, my governors are engaged with this. They can read these things and they can let me know that it's been done. Okay. Now, if you do need a notice to stay in place, it's similar to the document area. If you want something to stay at the top of that document folder and not be displaced by new documents coming in, you have the option to pin this as well. So we can say this is meeting agenda, and it's an important thing, so we're going to pin it, and it's going to be pinned to the top of that notice board, and it's going to stay put there for a while until we unpin it again. Okay. So hopefully that's helpful. The other thing we can do from here is add a topic. Now, you may, if you're not doing this already, you may want to start thinking about just taking that extra couple of seconds after a notice board post, just to add a topic to your particular post, because this is going to help you down the line when in 6 months' time you think, did we send out that agenda? And instead of scrolling back through the notice board post, you can then search for it as an agenda title. So it might be, that you're titling things like finance communication or safeguarding communication. And if you do that, you can then start to filter posts out by their relevant topic. So let's show you that as well. Let's pop a topic on this. And we're going to go, oh, there we go. Look, autumn meeting agenda. Lovely. So tick that. And I'm going to save that. And you'll see now on my post, we have a little topic appearing at the top there, autumn meeting agenda. Okay. And I've categorized that notice board post in the system. So not very useful right now, perhaps, but down the line, if I want to check something out, want to check that people have seen that and engaged with it, I can then filter the notice board out. So rather than scrolling back through the long list of posts and thinking, oh, what did I do with that post on the 21st or whatever, I can click here and I can start to filter that by a particular topic that I've already labeled with. So like I said, it could be anything. It could be meeting agendas, data protection, safeguarding, curriculum, finance. It's just a really worthwhile thing to do, just to start building into your clerking practice, popping a little hashtag, little topic onto the top of a notice board post, and it will help you out down the line, and your governors can then search for things that are relevant for them. Okay, hope that's helpful. While we're talking about communicating, I also just want to draw your attention to the My Hub, what we call the My Hub, and obviously this will appear with your name. It's what we call the My Hub, but it will be David's Hub or Jane's Hub or Sarah's Hub or whoever it is. If you are an administrator or a clerk working across multiple schools, by which I mean more than two, and you're administrator on those accounts, you should have the option here on your washing line to have your hub appear. And this is a nice, useful way of communicating en masse, as it were. Okay, if you're working across multiple schools, yes, you can click through and share a notice board post, and then click into the next school and share a notice board post, and then click through to another account and share that notice board post. Wouldn't it be nice if you can do all of that in one go? If you've got multiple messages, that need to be sent to multiple places in one go, then the hub is the place to do this, your particular hub. So as you can see here, it's the notice board again, but The difference here is the grey box at the top, which shows you all the accounts that you are a member of. Now, I'm a lucky thing. I've got many, many accounts. So I can see I've got all these accounts that I'm part of. So if I type a message here, what's that going to be? What's that? Is that nine groups? Happy days. So I could send that out. If I click post now, that's going to ping out simultaneously onto the notice boards of all 9 accounts that I'm a member of. Save me the job of doing that one by one and repeating the task endlessly. You may decide that that's not quite appropriate. And in fact, I don't think I should send this out to all of my groups, maybe just a couple of the schools and that sort of thing. So I'm going to take those off. And now, by clicking that little X button there and removing them from the group post, I'm actually now going to send this out. And this message is only going to be sent to these 3 groups that I'm a member of. Does that make sense? So I'm now going to click post, and that's going to ping off simultaneously to 3 different accounts. So that may help you if you are a clerk working across multiple schools or in a multi-academy trust and that sort of thing. Then you may find the hub option a useful option for sending those communications out. Okay, let me consult my list, make sure I haven't missed anything. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, let's head back into Wise Owl School and we'll talk about the area that we haven't mentioned yet, which is the calendar. So we've dealt with your governing board membership, your documents, sharing those out and communicating via the notice board or the hub icon. And at some point, you'll want to set up your events for the year ahead, and you'll want to start recording that membership, that attendance in GovernorHub as well. We've all been there in a meeting and, a bit of papers come round and you've signed your name or you've ticked your name off on the attendance list. It's nice to be able to do this in GovernorHub because it gives you a record of this over the year without shuffling lots of bits of paper around. So we'll take a look at that now. First step, we're going to look at the calendar area. And the calendar area, it's built into GovernorHub here. And easiest way that I've found of setting up a meeting is navigate to the date. You can go backwards and forwards and look at month and day lists and that sort of thing if that's what you need. But I recommend the week view, find the date you're looking at, and then double click right into the calendar at the time of the meeting that you want to go ahead with. So I'm going to double click there, and that's going to fill in on this date, and it's 6 o'clock till 6:30. It's going to give me a half-hour time slot. Okay, I may want to edit that as well. So we're going to say, right, this is going to be LGB number 2 this year. It's going to be in the school hall. That's very nice. And we're going to maybe edit that 1930, make it a little bit longer, and that sort of thing. Now, once we've got the basics in there, we can start filling in some additional options. There's quite a lot of information in setting up a calendar event. The first thing that we can do here is put in a video link. So lots of you will be using Zoom or Google Meets or something similar to do hybrid meetings whereby people turn up in real life, but also a couple of people are dialing in because of various commitments. So if you're working in Teams or whatever it happens to be, and you set up your meeting in Teams, you can then paste your Zoom or Teams link, whatever it is, in here. And it should look like, the kind of standard meeting link, www.zoom.com, blah, 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 with a long list of numbers and letters after it. Okay, so make sure it's looking correct. Make sure you've got the right thing in there. Paste that in there. And that will generate a video link icon that we've attached to the meeting. You can also specify who it's for. So you can say, right, well, this is a full governing board meeting, or this is a meeting just for the finance committee this week, or whoever it happens to be. I'll just mention the schools on there as well, because sometimes, even though we've put full governing board as the kind of default option, it might be that some schools want to indicate whole school events. let's say like the sports day, summer sports day, that's an event that governors might need to know about, but it's not necessarily a governing board event. So in that instance, they might actually choose Wise Owl School here. And so the event is for the school, and what you're doing there is putting it into the calendar to show the governors that it's a school event, just like a Halloween disco or a sports day or an Ofsted inspection, God forbid. So we can pop that in. We're going to make that for the full governing board on this occasion. It's going to fill in your clerk as default, whoever has the role of clerk allocated on that governing board. If that clerk is not available for that particular meeting and you've got someone in as a temporary clerk, then you can just take that person off. And if you've added them to the board already, you can pop the other clerk in for that particular meeting. And here's where we start to tie it all together. You can, as we've talked about, upload your documents into a folder on GovernorHub for that particular meeting, and then you can select that folder to make those documents visible and linked to the particular meeting that you're creating. So let's go through. It's a full governing board meeting. I know the date doesn't match up, but let's tick that folder and we'll say that's the one. That's lovely. So we've got the details, where it is, when it is. We've got the Zoom link or a Teams link or some sort of virtual link in there. It's going to be for the full governing board, clerked by this person. We've got a link to the documents. We're almost there. We're going to add the attendees as well so that we can start to fill this out in GovernorHub and generate a nice attendance report for you. Now, you can click through and add members one by one. You can add committee members, or you can just add all members. Since this is a full governing board, I'm going to go with the whole lot. So we're going to pull in all of our members from this account into GovernorHub event. And we're going to lock it so that no one else can edit that afterwards. Create. Wonderful. Okay, we're in. So we've got our meeting. It's in the calendar. It's official. A couple of points just to note. At this point, we haven't told anyone about the meeting. It's just appearing in GovernorHub. Second thing is we haven't marked any attendance. We've said who we're expecting to turn up by putting the list of members into the calendar event, but we haven't actually marked that attendance. So let's talk that through. How would you share this out? Once you've set up a meeting in GovernorHub, how are you going to then tell people about this? Well, I think the most obvious way is, again, head back to the notice board. Let me just get rid of that and pop in a meeting, pop in a notice, apologies. Don't forget tonight's meeting in the hall, 6 p.m, something like that. Pop that out to your governors. Now, when your governors sign into GovernorHub, they'll also be sign in and be taken to the news tab, which is where we started, if you remember, right at the start of this session. And you can see now in the upcoming events tab, we've got exactly that information that they need to know. The meeting is today, it's at 6 o'clock, it's LGB2, it's in the school hall. Here's the link to the document folder. So if they click that, they'll go straight through to where they need to be. There's no searching through, going, what happened to those documents that someone emailed around last week? It's all here for you. And if we put a real Teams or Zoom link in there, we'd also have a little icon showing up here with the link to that particular video meeting. So all of that is in one place, and hopefully that's a massive time saver for your governors. They're going to see all of that in one place. The other thing they can do then is click through to the school and have a look at the calendar. Yes, it's in there. And they can find the documents and whatnot from there. Just wanted to point out this little button here as well, subscribe to calendar. And this is something you may wish to encourage your governors to do. We know that if they're signing up to GovernorHub, lots of them are going to use a school email address, lots of them are going to use a trust email address, and they won't necessarily see these things and these notifications and events until they sign into that email. Wouldn't it be useful if they could, they're looking at their phone over breakfast and the notification is on their phone in their phone calendar about their governing meeting later in that week? Yes, it would be useful. So why don't you encourage them to subscribe to the calendar? Now, if you click on this, you get a little link here, which you can follow through. We give you some more guidance for that if needed, but you can copy that And if you've got this open on your computer, you might have your Gmail calendar or your Outlook calendar or something like that open in another tab as a governor. And you can click through, copy that link and paste that into your subscription service on your calendar app. Okay, and that way it pulls through GovernorHub events into the calendar that you've pasted that into. So if your chair of governors uses Gmail and they've got their Gmail calendar open, they can click that link and copy those events through so that anything you put in the GovernorHub calendar here will also appear in their Gmail calendar. So they're keeping on top of things. They're not going to miss anything. That subscription option is really worth pointing out, I think, to your governors. Okay, let's assume they're subscribed, they've seen the notifications, they're happy, they've found all the documents, and they're ready to go. As people turn up for the meeting, as an administrator, as a clerk, you're going to click through to the calendar event that you created. You've got a couple of options here. If you do want to do a sign-in sheet, you can click the download sign-on sheet option, and that will bring off that members list that you put in, 14 attendees, in fact, as we can see here, and that will pull that off into a printable sign-on sheet so that you can pass that around in the meeting and members can sign it off as they're there. If you'd rather do this in GovernorHub, though, in a digital manner, what you can do is click the edit button on your event. And you can see here that all the people are listed that we're expecting to show up. And in fact, what you can do, rather than getting to sign or initial that bit of paper, what you can do is just simply click down the list and say, right, yeah, that person's here, that person's here, that person's here. Oh, I haven't heard from them. Didn't get any apologies this time. I've had apologies from Jane, Joe, Harry, turned up, and all this sort of thing. Now, it might be that a couple of people have let you know in advance they can't make it, so you're just going to take them off the attendance list, and that's fine. We'll take the person off as well. Okay, so there is a snapshot of our attendance. So you can see who's attended, who's not sent apologies through, who's had their apologies accepted, and that is indicated in the system now. And all we really need to do is just click save. So we're going to click save, and that is going to save into GovernorHub. Now, very important, you won't see any changes here. Okay, I know we removed a couple of people there from the list, so that list is now 10 attendees. But you're not going to see any actual difference in that calendar event. It doesn't look any different to how it did before. What that does is it saves that attendance information into a report, which we're going to look at shortly. When we need to get that information back off the system, who did attend that meeting on that date? It's all there, it's all in GovernorHub, and we need to find a way of bringing that to you, which we'll look at in a moment. But hopefully that's helpful to you. That's a way of showing you how to set up those calendar events, making sure your governors are subscribed, and you might just, a few days before a meeting, you might just want to, I would suggest maybe same day is a little bit late, next week's meeting, something like that. Pop that in the chat a week ahead of time. Just give people a heads up. Okay, fabulous. I'm going to pause there. Have a look at the long list of chat. And that's, yes, make sure I've covered everything there. I think that's all good. All right. Keep that in mind. We'll come back and look at that attendance report in a moment. What I do just want to do is just consider this from your governor's angle in terms of the profile page and the declarations and confirmations. So I'm aware we've taken in quite a lot of information here already. There's more. At the top right-hand side of your screen is your name, hopefully, that appears when you sign in. And if you click on your name, you have the options to view your own profile or to log out of the site. Now, if I click on my profile, I've got information here that I can fill in. As I've said before, all you really need to use GovernorHub is an email address. So if that's all there is, that's what's on the system. That's just the email that I'm using to sign in and access the account. But your governors can edit that information and supply more for you. They can put their postal address, a phone number in, emergency contact, that sort of thing. Would encourage them also to fill this in, and you can do this as admins as well. You can fill in their date of birth, their DBS details. That's a really useful thing to have on the system. I will just flag this up because it is possible to have multiple DBS certificates. Some governors, as you know, work across different schools, so they will have and require a separate DBS certificate for each institution that they work with. So if that's the case, you can put their DBS number here, and then you can separate it with a comma and put their other one in as well. Okay, and that's lovely, and that will save into the system, and so you'll be able to reference both of their DBS numbers from there. Let's just touch on this box here, because this is really important. All of this information is optional. Okay, as we've said, you only need the email address to use GovernorHub. Anything else is useful, and it helps people administer the system efficiently. Particularly with regard to this box at the bottom here. This is a new box this year, and it's a personal information box. Now, very important, with this sensitive information, you are the only person that is going to see this. Okay, it is impossible to see someone else's information in this box on the system. Okay, the reason for that is obviously this data and this information is highly personal and highly sensitive, and it's offered on a voluntary basis. It's not compulsory to fill this in, but as you know, this year the DfE issued guidance that it's useful for us to collect some of this information if it's volunteered, for us to be able to track what's happening in governance across the country, and to help drive towards a really diverse and representative state of governance in this country. And I think that's really important. So if your members do want to fill this in, please encourage them to do so, and please reassure them that it is completely private and will not be shared with anyone, except when they log in, they'll be able to see it themselves. So they can offer their gender, ethnic group, religion, and so on and so on. Okay, we've got more information about this here if you need it. And if you're in any doubt about any of this information on your profile page, you can always click the "Who can see this" button, and it will give you that information. So only you can see the personal information. Whereas things like the DBS details, if you volunteer those on the system, the admins can see that. Other staff can see that if you've chosen to share that information. And as part of the setup process, if you remember right back at the start, when we're setting members up on GovernorHub and asking them to go through that sign-up process, set a password, set your privacy details, all of those things, that privacy options for that are on the sign-up. But they can be changed on this page as well. So if your governors are not sure, they can edit that and say, right, I only want admins of the group to see this. Okay. Just heading back to this diversity information again, once enough people on your organisation fill that in, there will be an anonymised report available on the Downloads tab. That only appears once a certain number of your board fill it in. So it does remain truly anonymous. There's no point in saying, one person's filled this in and this one person is this. That defeats the whole point. But if you've got, 15 people on the governing board and a certain percentage of those fill in the right questions, there will be enough data generated in the system to say, right, 25% of this or 50% of this or whatever it happens to be. Okay. We'll look at that report shortly as well. So all of this information is voluntary, but admins can in fact fill this in. And I'll just show you that. Heading to Wise Owl School. If you need to view someone's profile, head back to that governing board tab that we started on, and you can click through and see, right, let's go to someone's profile page, and we can pop that information in there. As an admin, you have permission to do that. Okay. And depending on the security settings, other people may or may not have that option. So if you're a regular governor in a school and you're clicking through and someone has said that information shouldn't be shared, that option's not going to work for you. Okay, heading back to my profile here, got the personal information, obviously things like a photograph, and you can see which accounts you're part of, if you're part of multiple accounts. Moving across from there, is the declarations information, and this is where your members are going to sign it off. So really important just to consider this from their perspective. If you're a parent governor and it's your first time being a governor, where do you find this stuff to sign it off? So this is where you do it from. Do it from your profile, do it from the declarations and confirmations tab, and you'll be able to see here we've got a section here enabling you to add declarations of interest. You can also do this on other members' behalf as well as admin. You can fill this in. If you've got their interests listed on a spreadsheet or a piece of paper already, you can fill this here out and populate this in GovernorHub. That's fine. So you may want to type in the information, the organisation, the dates this is relevant to, and this is a new feature, relatively recent. You can choose which groups that is applicable to. Okay, so it may be that one of your governors has a spouse on the staff, and that's something that you need to declare for one school, but obviously not for the other school where that person doesn't work. So it might be that you want to select the right school from the list of groups, similar to the MyHub, taking that list of groups that you're a member of and just applying that particular declaration to one or two or however many of your boards. Okay. Once you've done that, the declaration will show up there and it shows you which school it applies to. You're not quite done yet because your governors will need to confirm that. So the confirm button actually lives underneath the actual declaration. You'll see here, confirm and submit your declarations. Now, if I do that, it's going to fill in with today's date, meaning I've signed that off. If I need to clear that, I can clear that and resubmit it. Okay. You can add multiple interests in that box. Down the page now, we have a set of confirmations that you may need your members to sign off as well. We do provide keeping children safe in education as standard for every member. Obviously, it's vitally important that they read it. So please encourage them to click through. The link here is always the latest document, and then click through and confirm. Now, if you have set up custom confirmations for your members to sign off, if there's something you need them to sign off, like an IT policy or a governor induction, or I've read the handbook or whatever it happens to be, you can set those up. I'll show you where in a moment, and your members can sign these off from here. Okay, so again, this is from a governor perspective. That's where they're going to sign off their declarations and confirmations. But what about you as an admin, as a clerk, as an administrator? How are you going to make sure this is all set up how you need to do it? Well, the answer to that is heading back to that governing board tab that we looked at earlier. And this time we're going to have a look at the declarations and confirmations tabs themselves. And the reason they're here is because this is where you're going to have a look at these at a board level. So for your governors, don't forget they're going to sign this off on their profile. Okay, it's very important to point them to the right part of the site, which is their profile page. But for you as an administrator, what you'll be wanting to look at is these two tabs here actually on the governing board itself. So the first thing to point out is the governing board declarations tab here has been updated. I've had a few wrinkles with it this term, but it is should be all working now. So please do check it and let us know if you spot anything amiss. The idea here is that it gives you a snapshot of who's confirmed their declarations this year. So you can see here, everyone on this list from the governing board has a date next to it if they've done something on the system regarding a declaration. And you can see these members are in blue. They've signed that off, and they've signed that off in this current academic year. So there's no need to chase these people because they're all up to date. However, if we scroll down the list, you can see got a few maybe just need a little bit of a nudge, because yes, they have made a confirmation or a declaration, on the system, but it's dating to last year. You can see Sarah Smith hasn't done this since the 13th of June, so probably needs to have a little review of it and maybe a little nudge to reconfirm. So that's how you can have a look at that. And oh, who's this? There's always someone, isn't there? There's always someone who hasn't done it yet, so perhaps give them a nudge as well. Now, a couple of other things to show you. If you hover over that person's information, you can see a bit of detail about it. So you can see Hannah has made 6 declarations. And if you want a little bit more information, you can actually click on the arrow and you can see those listed, copied from her profile and visible to you there in a nice visible way. So you can say, right, yeah, I'm confident that person has made their relevant declarations this year. That's fabulous. So we also have a report on this. Now, we will show you the report shortly, but this is a nice visual way of just making sure everyone's up to date and getting a snapshot of who you need to nudge. Now, if we have a look at the confirmations tab, this works slightly differently in that you can't see the confirmations from here that have been confirmed, but this is the place where you as administrator are going to set that up for your members to sign off. Remember, they're signing it off from their profile page. So let's make a new one. I've read the Governor Handbook. Brilliant. Need to make sure all your governors have read your particular school governor's handbook. Read this, please. And in fact, we'll link them to the document. So we'll click through from here. So here's the declaration. Here's the sort of subtext for this. And if you need to link it to a specific document that they need to read or have a look through, you can click here. Once you've uploaded it to GovernorHub in the document area, you can click through. You can maybe send it as a link if you've stored it elsewhere. But if you've got it on GovernorHub, you can have a look here and go through to the relevant document. Let's just pick one. Let's say it's item 2. That's terrific. Okay. So there is the confirmation and the document they need to sign off. And we'll save that. And that is there. But remember, your members can't sign this off from here. What you've done is you've set it up for them. They will still need to go to their profile page, to the confirmations tab, and it will appear on there for them to sign off. Okay, so that is an overview of your declarations and confirmations. That does work slightly differently for a multi-academy trust. Now, I'm going to come on to that at the end of this session, hopefully not too long a time. So if you're looking at that sort of thing from a MAT perspective, bear with me and I'll come back to it in a few moments' time. Okay. Excellent. Just going to have a quick look at the chat and we're doing okay for time. And yes, going to move on. So it's a lot of information in one session. And we're just going to talk about these downloads that we've been referencing throughout this session. Excuse me. Now, from the About tab in GovernorHub, there are some settings and there are some permissions around the governing board that you can see. But what you'll be most interested in as administrators is the Downloads tab. And this is exactly where you need to be to get that information off the system once your governors have populated it. So all the things we've talked about, you know, DBS details, meeting attendance, diversity information, declarations and confirmations, that's all here. And this is where you need to be to pull out that information from the system. So head to the About tab, head to the Downloads tab, and you can see we've got a report for the board diversity data. Okay, and gives you a little heads up on that, obviously, because it's sensitive data. I'll just show you what we're looking at. So, for example, in fact, there's nothing on there. It's not a great example, is it? So what that means at this point in time is no one's filled it in, or enough people haven't filled it in to make any meaningful data out of it. So we're not going to show you it because there's nothing there that is essential for you to know at that point. Okay, could be then that you need a conversation with your board, encouraging them to do that if that's what you'd like to do. But if it does appear there, it's a pie chart based on each of the criteria, things like gender, religion, etc., etc. It will be a sort of representative sample of what people have said about their diversity. Okay, hopefully that's helpful to you. And if the DfE provide more guidance on what we should do with that going forward, then we'll obviously have a look at it. Okay, things like members lists, a bit more standard. And you can see here, this is exactly the sort of format it appears in, with details hidden or available depending on who's upon the security settings that governors have chosen. If you're an administrator, you will always have the option for this report, which is including any hidden contact details. So if you're a normal governor, normal member of the account, you will have this one, and some of those details may or may not be hidden depending on the security settings of that individual that individual has chosen. But as an admin, you will probably need to know those contact details if they're on there. So we always include that for you if you're an admin. Got a get information about schools list in the correct format for uploading. Historic members report. I will just draw your attention to this one. This is quite a useful one, membership changes. And I think this gets often overlooked because it's quite a big report often. What this is it's a history of changes on the governing board account. It's just opening on my other screen, bear with me. And what this is, if I scroll down to something a bit more current, it tracks all the changes that have been made on the site over time. I hope you're able to see that. It's not quite clear if you can see that or not, but I'm going to proceed assuming that you can. Essentially, it's a report that tracks the changes of what's happened on the site. So if we look back through it, you can say, right, 22nd of May this year, 10:38 a.m., I was made an admin of Wise Owl School, and I made that change myself. So in this way, what it's useful for is tracking those changes. If you've got a parent that moved from a parent governor to a co-opted governor back in March last year, but you can't remember the exact date and you can't find it on the appointment details, you can have a look through the membership changes report here and see exactly what that change, when that change happened and who made it on the system. So that's a really good reference point for historic changes on the system. Training records, if your members have training records listed, and that's something we didn't actually mention on your profile page, but you can download the training records from there. The declarations report is here. So this is where you're going to pull off the information from that declarations tab that we looked at, the sort of summary saying who's done that this year and who needs a bit of a shove on it. So you can have a look at that there. That's all nicely in there for you. And we have a compliance checks list. So this is a summary of those things that we were talking about. Your members signing off. You can see them here. Oh, bear with me. It's opening on my other screen. And you can see here, if I zoom out a little bit, when that was made and who made it. Okay, so if you want to check your compliance, have they got the DBS details? Have they got the keeping children safe in education confirmed and signed off? Have they done their declarations? All of these things are there so that you can chase people if needed. DBS details are there. Meeting lists. Once you set up your meetings over the course of the year, you may wish to have an overview report of what's coming up over the academic year. That is available from here, and obviously that's historic. So by the time you've used the system for a few years, you'll be able to look back and say, right, what was our meeting structure in 2020, and that will be in place for you. Likewise, the attendance list, if you're choosing to mark attendance in the calendar event, which is what we looked at earlier, you'll be able to see who's signed off and when, with yes, no, or a question mark if they're not confirmed, or no apologies, or whatever it happens to be. You can download committee lists, constitution, And from when we were talking about the document area a little while ago, any documents that you've added review dates to can be seen from here, and a complete list of all signed documents. So if you need to check who's signed a particular document, obviously you can do that in the document area itself. But if you'd rather see it in a spreadsheet or something like that, download that from here and you'll be able to see who's signed off and who needs to do that. And if you do want a backup of your items on GovernorHub, we do have obviously backups on the system in the event of something going wrong, but you can always keep a download archive of your folders and files from there. Okay, let's just head back and have a look at those training records before I forget. Next door to the declarations tab on the profile, which we were looking at earlier, is the training record, whereby your members can add things in. And as admins, you can also do that. So remember, the way to do this is to head to the person's profile. Let's find my profile. View that person's full profile, click on the training record, and then you can update it and say they did, finance 101 or whatever it is on a particular date, and that will upload, and you can upload the certificates from there as well. Okay, we have covered an awful lot of ground today. Thank you if you're still with us. I just want to pause there and just talk about what happens if you are in a multi-academy trust setup, because a lot of this is obviously relevant for individual schools and trusts and clerks working across those schools. Oh, lots of thumbs up. I'm pleased lots of you are still awake. This is good news. Let's just take a quick look at a trust setup, and I'll just briefly explain the hierarchy that goes on here. The way this works in a trust is that the top trust board is the umbrella, if you like, and all the local boards sit underneath that umbrella. So we have top-down access from the trust board to your local boards. Now, if you are an administrator on a local board, that's fine. You're going to be able to do all the admin-y things that we've covered today. If you are an admin of a trust board, you may well have some additional options. So you'll see here, looking at a school account, when you're on the notice board page, the school information actually appears on the right-hand side box here. If you're admin of a trust board, which is the top level hierarchy account of a trust, what you don't see is the actual information for that trust. What you have instead is a link to any of the local schools that are linked to that particular trust. Now, if you're an admin on this trust board, you don't actually need to be an admin of all of these schools. What you can do is just simply click through and view the school account, and you have automatic admin rights over that school based on the fact that you are already an admin on the top level account. I hope that makes sense. Although, that being said, it's a good idea to be a member of your schools and an admin on those schools so that you can take advantage of features like My Hub, so that you can send those messages out across those groups if needed. Okay, so whilst you don't need to be a member and an admin of your local boards, if you're already an admin on the trust account, it is quite a useful thing. So you may want to look at that. Now, in terms of trust board declarations, that works in the same way. In terms of trust board confirmations, we can do that in the same way as well. What a trust also has is something called a resources area. And this is a shared area which is linked to the trust board and all the local boards as well. So this is a central shared point which all those accounts can access and make reference to. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And there's a couple of communication options and things from here as well. So first up, we'll talk about the news tab on the resources area. This is a nice way of sharing information out to all your schools. If you are clerking in a trust and an admin of the trust board, you could write a news article and you could say, this is for everyone, and you can ping that out, and that's going to send it literally to all your members in all of your schools in one go. Okay, it's going to send an email out. It's not going to do anything on notice boards. That's the My Hub option. But this, if you want to send a newsletter, a news update, a heads up, this is how you would do it across a trust. Okay, remember, this is a central point. This resources icon, resources area is a shared area for all the schools and trust board that are linked up to it. Okay. If you are going to attend our admin site training on the 9th of November, we'll get more into this and how to customize some of those options around communicating within a trust. So if you are a governance professional or trust clerk, please join us on the 9th of November and we'll fill you in on that. I'm not going to go into it here. Okay. You may have a training area available if you have a knowledge subscription. From here, on the resources area, you'll also have an overview of declarations across your trust. Now, this is also a relatively new feature, and you can see here all the schools and accounts that are linked to this particular trust, and you can see here at a glance rough percentage of who's done what. So you can see Wise Owl School are pretty good. 9 of 14 members have confirmed their declarations this year. Happy days. In fact, the Owlet School is smashing it with 100%, but that's because they only have one member. So that one person has done it all. However, it looks like Wings School are lagging behind. They've only got one person out of 11 have done their declarations this year. Might need to give them a little bit of a nudge. Okay, so hopefully that's a helpful snapshot for you. Likewise, from the confirmations tab here, we talked earlier about how to set up a confirmation for a particular board. Okay, if you do have trust-wide confirmations, you can now do this on this tab. So let's run through that. Pop the, let's do a read the handbook one again. Read this, click the link to the handbook, and then if I save that, this is now going to be posted as a custom confirmation on the trust board and on all the local schools as well. So it saves you, repeating that task for each of your academies or schools. Okay, that's going to be a blanket confirmation that's going to appear for everyone to sign off. Phew, we're nearly there. Just want to point out the resources area, which is a trust resources central repository, if you like, whereby you can put in the newsletter and policies and templates and things that everyone should be able to access. And lastly, if you're working in a trust, you might just want to cast your eye on the trust-wide calendar. It is going to show you events from all of the boards in the trust. You can see here, the trust board, the Nest School, the Owlet Nursery, they're all going to appear here. Now, please note, this is a read-only calendar. You won't be able to actually make any changes here. You will still need to go to Wise Owl School or whatever it happens to be to set up your events like we did with the LGB meeting earlier in this session. But you will be able to see if there are any clashes. You'll be able to see what's happening in any particular week. So that's a useful thing to look at just to get an overview, what is happening in governance in this trust. Let's have a look here. You can see there's quite a lot going on this week already. Okay, and if you're looking at the list view, it's going to show you the next 120 days for the groups that you're a member of. Okay, brilliant. I think that is more than enough for one day. I hope that's been really helpful. I'm sure you're probably going to go away and think of another question. We're going to download the questions from the chat and we'll send those out hopefully with answers. Thank you for the applause. That's very kind. Please join us if you can. We've got a governors and trustees normal kind of GovernorHub training session on the 2nd of November, and we've got the admin site one for trust professionals and governor services and local authorities on the 9th, and that will be looking at some of the more back end stuff that's available in GovernorHub, some of the deeper functions that aren't available on the front end of the site. Don't forget, drop us a line on support@governorhub.com if you have any questions about your account or anything you'd like to follow up with from this session. And with that in mind, I will close it there and say thank you very much for using GovernorHub, and please stay in touch. We love hearing from you. Okay, many thanks, everyone.